about the new curfew at some public parks that we're seeing. Over the weekend, we saw SRG officers arrest 23 people in Washington Square. In some cases, this was violent. We also saw police seal Tompkins in the East Village without any notice to the community, hours before its scheduled closure. So, can you first say whether you think the curfew at Washington Square Park should continue this weekend? And did you direct the NYPD to close down Tompkins on Saturday, or was that a decision they made on their own?
On that one, it's a situation that we're seeing in a couple of places, as you said, Jake, and that's a decision that local police commanders have to make based on what they see. So I just was not involved in that one, but I understand and appreciate that if they see a situation where it makes sense to effectuate a closure, I think that's the smart thing to do. The Washington Square Park curfew, we've had many conversations here at City Hall and with One Police Plaza about that. I think it's also the right thing to do for this moment. I'd like to see the point come where no longer necessary, but we've had a series of issues and problems, and I think a proactive approach is the right way to do it. Go ahead, Jake.
Okay, so I guess it sounds like what you're saying is you are okay with police making the decision to unilaterally close parks without any sort of public notice to the community. I think a lot of New Yorkers would point out that seems like kind of a infringement on the public square. And I'm wondering what your response to that is. And I also just wanted to get you to kind of respond to what I heard from some police this weekend. Basically, we saw them shut down this impromptu dance party around a speaker. I saw them tell a band that they couldn't play at Tompkins, where they've been playing for much of the last year. And I heard from an officer that this is because there's no parties in city parks. Do you agree with that statement? And are you concerned about the way police are enforcing these rules in public parks right now?
Jake, I don't know about that statement. I didn't really fully understand that statement, but let me speak to the bigger question you're asking. And I appreciate you're saying the public square and what is that balance. This is one of the most open cities in the world, and it will always be, and it must be. When we see a recurrent pattern of problems, we've got to address them proactively. Addressing them reactively, it just doesn't work as well, and unfortunately can lead to more conflict, and I think we all agree we need a more peaceful dynamic in our communities. So we've learned a lot of things in the last year or two, and one of the lessons is proactive action is better. It's something that happens rarely, honestly. It's not needed in the vast majority of places, but it is needed sometimes. It's something we want to do carefully, sparingly. In all situations, we understand the importance of dialogue, and particularly having our community affairs officers up front trying to resolve issues whenever possible. But sometimes the best way to avoid conflict and also address real community concerns about noise or violence is to do something proactively. So we'll do it when necessary. I don't think you'll see it that often, but we'll do it when necessary.
Next is Shant from the Daily News.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question, Mayor. I guess, yeah, following up on Jake's question, video that circulated from the curfew enforcement over the weekend showed officers in riot gear chasing people through the streets. I mean, I think, there were kind of flashbacks to last summer where there were similar scenes, albeit on a bigger scale. So I guess, to put it simply, is officers in riot gear the right answer? Is there a less heavy-handed way to go about curfew enforcement if that's what you want?
Yeah, and I appreciate the question, Shant, because we all use that term. We're all used to that term. Good observation was made by Deputy Commissioner John Miller that when there are officers unfortunately confronting people who are throwing projectiles at them, most notably bottles, to put on a helmet is the right thing to do to protect the officer. That's the extent of the gear change in most cases. So I do think it's fair to say this is not a overly dramatic action to simply provide some protection to officers. What we need to do is have folks who have a disagreement not throw things, talk about it, work it through whenever humanly possible. It is not the same as last summer. Obviously, we don't want it to be the same as last summer. What we're going to do consistently is set clear rules, have community affairs up front, But if, unfortunately, folks initiate violence towards their fellow New Yorkers or towards police officers, that has to be addressed. That's very, very few people, Sean. Let's be clear. That's very few people at this point. When it happens, we'll address it. The vast majority of New Yorkers just want a peaceful summer.